personal and tend to be subjective. So the only way to assess them is to interview customers and ex-customers and learn what they want and their views of the value that they have received. It is important that you get the right people to learn the right lessons. Unfortunately, useful learning is not closely related to the quantity of information available. If it were, we'd all be swimming in skills and expertise. Instead, useful learning is a matter of getting the right information to the right people and giving them good reason to want to use it. But although root cause analysis enables people to learn, you still need some systemic way of getting people to want to learn. Therefore, the indispensable first step in unleashing the power of defection analysis is to make appropriate changes in measures, incentives, even career paths. What you want to do is make failure analysis permanent. The key to customer loyalty is the creation of value. The key to value creation is organizational learning. And the key to organizational learning is grasping the value of failure. Vilfredo Pareto said it more than 70 years ago when he wrote, "Give me a fruitful error any time, full of seeds, bursting with its own corrections." Customer defection is a unit of error containing nearly all the information a company needs to compete, to profit, and to grow. Alan Baer, president of Pacific Yurts, who I talked about a moment ago, is a good example. According to Baer, creating an atmosphere of mutual trust and quality employees is the key to his business. With a 20 to 30% annual growth rate, the company recently moved to a larger facility, and the employees designed their own workspace. Baer believes that it pays to involve the entire workforce, that the company gets better results when employees are committed to the organization and to their customers. Pacific Yurt's operating principles are customer satisfaction, continual product improvement, honesty, reliability, mutual responsibility, and responsiveness. Before I leave, I want to leave you with some thoughts about the new global economy, some thoughts about some insights on the changes that this information economy is bringing. I want to share them with you not as problems you will have to overcome, but as gifts that come to us as participants, as customers, as human beings. The information economy presents us with 4 gifts: better tools, more knowledge, more choices, and greater power. Better tools means that today's high tech will give birth to higher tech. And those of us using this technology are in fact the midwives of that birth. We are directing the future by our actions. Better tools means that increasingly our careers will be based on craftsmanship. How we use these higher tech tools will determine our careers rather than the organizations we work for. But to maintain our craftsmanship, we will find ourselves in constant reskilling, upskilling, and relentless learning. More knowledge means that learning has never been easier, and it will become easier yet throughout the world. This telecast is an example of that. Information is plentiful and will become more plentiful, and this is fueled even more by the Internet. In the U.S. and Europe and Japan, business is displacing schools as the primary dispenser of education. If the developing nations are to become players in the new global economy beyond providing cheap labor, then the organizations that employ these people will have to become more involved in their learning. Our freedom to pick and choose is astounding. We have more choices than we often know how to make. And one reason for this is that information is creating numerous niche markets, which can be seen in stores throughout the world. It can be seen in the battle for shelf space in what is becoming a buyer's market. But a marketplace that is a buyer's market is also an unforgiving marketplace where there are as many losers as there are winners, and where survival may mean accepting lower market share, lower margins, and partnering with former enemies. Finally, ultimately this new age is about individuals and not organizations. But the ultimate resource is knowledge, and knowledge resides with the people who acquire it, who nurture it, who grow it, and who share it. In an information age, power is shared, or if you will, empowerment is granted by putting the necessary resources in the hands of those who do the work. And those with knowledge will find themselves self-empowered. Of course, these gifts will be frightening to some. So it is up to those of us who welcome these opportunities to help our organizations by removing the obstacles to change. One such obstacle is the task of transforming an organization into a customer-oriented management system, because such a transformation is a broad and sweeping change. It takes a long time. The organization has to believe it's worth the struggle, that understanding customer requirements and satisfaction is the key to their satisfaction. Once we understand what needs to be done, we can define it, and that when we can define it, we can model it. Then we can do it, and we can communicate it throughout our organization. Finally, when that happens, we can take ownership for the responsibility of customer satisfaction and customer loyalty, and only then can we be truly responsible for our success anywhere in the world. Are there any final questions?
Take one, go Armando.
Let us continue now with a second question-answer session. We would like to send a special greeting to participants in Caracas, Venezuela, from the Central University in Venezuela. Good afternoon. I am Professor Pedro Grijalva. One of our participants would like to place the following question. How can you motivate the state's businesses to apply these norms in order for them to improve their services, government sector?
I think the marketplace, excuse me, I think the marketplace will provide that competition. Even in government-sponsored businesses throughout Europe have learned that that as competition has come from Asia, that they've had to adopt these same principles, because now customers again have more choices. The same is occurring throughout Latin America. In the case of Mexico, then I think the NAFTA agreement will eventually cause more of that. It's a slow process. It is not an easy process, but it's an inevitable one. Government-controlled operations and businesses cannot stop it. Competition is global and is coming from everywhere.
Greetings to our neighbors from Baja California, and their question is coming from the Tecate, Baja California, Mexico. Good morning. Good morning. I'm calling from Secati number 191, and we have a question for you. How can we achieve total quality, total satisfaction, customer satisfaction, once you have already exhausted all of the possibilities that to customers who are very highly demanding? What else to do?
What else to do is continue to ask those customers how you're doing, and to fine-tune that. One of the important things to think about or to do that is not easy is to try to create your service to your customers as a seamless process. To look at the process and find all of the elements that are there that the customer expects, which may be the behavior of a clerk, that may be the packaging of the product, certainly price. all of the things that the customer identifies as value. You need to understand what their expectations are and to continually strive to meet those expectations. Digress with a quick war story. My corporation at Xerox, as an example, made copiers and at one time did not copy blue ink. And whenever we were asked why we didn't copy blue ink, we would tell the customer they ought to use black pens. When Canon came along and introduced a copier that copied blue ink, we decided to change our technology too.
And now from Argentina, stay away from the monitor, please. Buenos días, por favor, que se mantengan fuera. In the process of service profit that you mentioned, is this for clients who have repetitive consumption or use, but for the activities of consumption where certain repurchasing activities are almost impossible, for example, in the real estate market, what strategies do you suggest for us to achieve customer satisfaction, taking into account that there is no second opportunity or second time around, you know, when you buy a house, for instance?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question, and that's a good example. It is, I suppose, more common than most for people to buy a home and to stay in that home for the rest of their lives, perhaps. On the other hand, there are a number of people who upgrade or change homes or are forced to move. I'm in my fourth house as an example. If you receive good service from a real estate agent, one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to use that service again when you have the need, or you're going to refer other people to that service, which is tantamount to the same thing. And keep in mind that the flip side to that referral is if it is not good service, you're going to recommend to people that they not use it. So even in something like real estate where the interaction is singular or less frequent, the same rules apply and the same principles are as important. In fact, perhaps more so.
Well, now, greetings and welcome to our friends from Medellin, Colombia. Fenalco on the air. Good morning. We have the following question. In order for customer satisfaction to be the main objective of an organization, service plus a administrative strategy with a marketing must be an attitude, a lifestyle of all the components and all the people. What do you think, how do you think we could apply, how can we implement a culture, this kind of strategy to create this kind of culture within the organization?
Wonderful question. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a while. Some of the principles are there must be a statement on the part of the organization that, in fact, this is a principle. It's got to be part of the vision of the organization. There has to be the infrastructure in terms of gathering data, establishing metrics, and measuring the organization and the elements of the organization and how well they satisfy customers. There has to be that investment in employees, that they understand the vision, they understand the objectives, and that they're given the tools, both in terms of information as well as the working tools to accomplish it. And that it becomes a part of the very lifeblood of the organization itself. I was recently in Ireland and went into a grocery store, which is a chain throughout Ireland, And while I was paying for my purchases, I noticed that all of the employees had jackets, and on the jackets there was a boomerang, and which led me to wonder whether the company was owned by an Australian firm or whatever. And I asked what was the significance of the boomerang, and the answer was interesting. What that young lady said to me was, well, you're what the significance of the boomerang. When you throw a boomerang, it comes back to you. And my job is to be sure that you come back to us. There is an organization that has successfully inculcated the belief among its employees of what customer satisfaction is all about.
Ahora, we're going to Mexico, and this is from the Federal Power Commission, from SECAP.
Sí, lo escuchamos, México.
We're calling from the, we're coming from the Sinaloa. This is from the Educational Center from Mazatlan. This is not the Federal Power Commission. In our educational system, we have the positioning proposal in order to be directed toward this customer-oriented. We would like to know more about this proposal of positioning for customer satisfaction.
I have to confess, I'm not exactly certain I understand the question of positioning for customer satisfaction. And you're speaking from an educational center. So let me repeat something that I said earlier, and hopefully this will answer your question. In organizations that provide either multiple services or provide services of which there are multiple interests, in a sense there are multiple users of the services, it is necessary for that organization to be able to identify what the interest or the expectations are of each of the groups, and that begins with identifying the groups. In education, certainly when the users are students. Another group that stakeholders, if you will, another set of stakeholders are certainly the parents of those students. Are the people who pay taxes in the case of a state-supported institution. And it may be the faculty, and there may be the Board of Trustees. All of those people have within themselves a separate set of expectations or requirements of the institution as a whole. And the institution has got to be able to identify those and understand what they are separately, and then come back and look at their processes, which may be the delivery of the establishment of curriculum as an example. And how does that process interdict each of those stakeholders, and do they know how to satisfy each of those stakeholders within that process? I think that's what I understood the question to be, and if that didn't quite get to it, why don't you try a follow-up?
Going back to Brazil, Porto Alegre, another center for training. They're coming up with this question.
Strategies that the retailers... Hello? Yes, okay, no problem. What are the efficiency strategies that the retailers can make use in order to maintain the client's loyalty? It's a relation with the employee satisfaction.
I can't
With
hear.
employee satisfaction.
Sí, lamentablemente, sí, ya prácticamente se nos ha agotado el tiempo.
We're going to have to thank Mr. Finnigan and thank you all for the wonderful questions. I'm sorry, we have no time. We hope this video conference has been of your interest and that you have liked it. We will continue to transmit programs on innovative management systems and global competitiveness topics. We would like you to participate in our new and interesting, exciting 1996 series on principles for a world-class performance. months. And we would like you to confirm your registration in the following days and next few days to the ITC. This has been a wonderful year with a lot of accomplishments for all of those of us who collaborate here with this program. Thank you for your efforts and your contributions. On behalf of all of those of us who work here for the International Training Center, I would like to thank you for your wonderful participation and interest in this series, and we hope you are aboard next year as well. Our best wishes to all of you for this new holiday season and much success in the new year. Thank you.